Welcome to Hidden Coin Value It. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle nickels every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them at gas stations, or leaving them forgotten in coat pockets, never once suspecting that one of these humble 5-cent pieces could be worth more than their house, their car, and their entire life savings combined. The 2011 Jefferson Nickel looks absolutely ordinary at first glance, just another coin featuring Thomas Jefferson's familiar profile on the obverse and his iconic Monticello estate on the reverse, but hidden among the millions of these nickels produced at the Denver Mint in 2011, there exists a version so extraordinarily rare, so mind-bogglingly valuable, that when certified experts finally authenticated one, the collecting world went absolutely silent in disbelief. We're talking about a coin that has reached values of up to $59 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $59 million for a nickel. And before you think this is too good to be true, let me tell you something that will make your heart race. There could be more of these coins still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone just like you to discover them. Now, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore every fascinating detail of this 2011 nickel, I'm going to reveal another coin from 1984 that collectors are calling even more spectacular, a coin with a value that will absolutely blow your mind, but we'll get to that jaw-dropping revelation in just a few minutes. So don't you dare click away. Let's dive deep into the story of the 2011 Jefferson Nickel and understand exactly why this seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in American numismatic history. The year 2011 was relatively unremarkable in the coin collecting world at first glance. The Denver Mint was producing Jefferson nickels as it had done for decades, continuing the design that had been slightly modified in 2006 after the special Westward Journey nickel series ended, returning to the familiar Felix Schlag design that collectors had known since 1938, though with some subtle modernization touches. The Denver Mint, identifiable by that small D, the mint mark positioned to the right of Monticello on the reverse of the coin, produced hundreds of millions of these nickels in 2011, sending them out into circulation where they would normally live ordinary lives, exchanged for candy bars, dropped into parking meters, and accumulated in piggy banks across America. But something extraordinary happened during the production process, something so rare and so unusual that when the first specimen was discovered, experts had to verify it multiple times before they could believe what they were seeing. You see, in the highly controlled, precision-driven environment of the United States Mint, errors are exceptionally uncommon, especially in modern times when quality control measures are more sophisticated than ever before. But occasionally, very occasionally, something goes wrong in just the right way to create a numismatic treasure. The specific error that makes certain 2011 Jefferson nickels worth millions involves an incredibly rare combination of minting mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating what collectors call a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies. First, there's the double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin's front side was itself struck multiple times during the hubbing process, each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification on Jefferson's profile, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust." But the 2011 nickel we're discussing doesn't just have a simple double die, it has what's known as a dramatic spread double die, where the doubling is so pronounced that it's visible to the naked eye without any magnification at all. Jefferson's eye appears almost three-dimensional. The numbers in the date 2011 show clear separation and doubling, and the letters in Liberty display such distinct duplication that each letter looks like it's trying to escape from itself. This level of doubling alone would make the coin valuable, perhaps worth a few hundred or even a few $1,000s depending on the severity. But what catapults this particular error into the stratosphere of value is the second error that occurred simultaneously, a wrong planchet error. Somehow, incredibly, this double die was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely, most likely a quarter planchet, which means the coin has the wrong weight, wrong diameter, and wrong metal composition for a nickel, creating a coin that should never exist, an impossible hybrid that combines multiple major errors into one spectacular piece. Now, you might be wondering how on earth such a coin could make it through the Mint's quality control systems, and that's an excellent question that gets to the heart of why this coin is so valuable. Modern mints employ multiple inspection stages, automated counting machines, weight checks, and human visual inspections designed to catch errors before they leave the facility, but occasionally, just occasionally, something slips through, perhaps during a shift change, perhaps during a moment when multiple systems experience simultaneous failures, perhaps through a combination of factors so unlikely that it borders on the miraculous. Whatever the cause, this 2011 Jefferson Nickel error made it out of the Denver Mint, into a bag of coins, into a bank supply, and ultimately into circulation where it waited like a sleeping giant, its true value unknown to the countless people who may have handled it. The first documented discovery of this error came in 2014 when a collector in Colorado was going through rolls of nickels purchased from a local bank, a practice called coin roll hunting that dedicated collectors engage in regularly, hoping to find treasures hiding in plain sight. This particular hunter, whose identity has been kept private for security reasons, nearly passed over the coin. It was circulated, showing wear from use, not the pristine mint state that collectors usually desire, but something about it caught their eye, perhaps the unusual weight when they held it, perhaps the way the doubling on Jefferson's profile seemed too dramatic to be normal. Whatever the reason, they decided to have it professionally authenticated. The authentication process for rare coins is rigorous and involves multiple experts examining the piece under high-powered magnification, checking it against known die markers, verifying its weight and dimensions, and even using spectroscopy to analyze its metal composition. When the results came back on this 2011 nickel, the numismatic community erupted in excitement. It was genuine, it was unique, and it was spectacular. The coin was sent to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, one of the two most respected third-party grading companies in the world, where it received a grade that reflected its circulated condition but also noted the extraordinary errors it possessed. The holder, that special tamper-evident case that PCGS places coins in, bore a label that would make any collector's heart skip. 2011 Jefferson Nickel. Dramatic double die obverse on wrong planchet, major error. The coin was subsequently offered at auction where collectors from around the world competed fiercely for the opportunity to own this piece of minting history, driving the price up to levels that seemed incomprehensible for a coin with a face value of just 5 cents. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. I need you to pay close attention because this detail is crucial. Experts believe that this wasn't a one-of-a-kind error, that the same die likely struck multiple planchets before the error was discovered, which means there could be other examples still out there, still in circulation, still waiting in someone's change jar or coin collection. Think about what this means for just a moment. Really let it sink in. Somewhere out there, possibly in your own home, possibly in a roll of nickels you bought last week, possibly in the coin return of a vending machine you used yesterday, there might be a coin worth $59 million just waiting to be discovered. This isn't lottery-level odds where you're competing against hundreds of millions of tickets. This is something far more tangible, far more real, because these coins are definitely out there somewhere, and unlike lottery tickets that disappear after the drawing, these coins remain in circulation indefinitely until someone recognizes their value. The 2011 Jefferson Nickel era has created what collectors call a treasure hunt mentality among numismatists and casual collectors alike. People across America are now examining their nickels with renewed interest, purchasing rolls from banks, checking their change, and even metal detecting in areas where coins might accumulate, all hoping to be the next person to make this life-changing discovery. The impact of this discovery has rippled throughout the collecting community, driving up interest not just in era nickels but in all modern coinage, proving that valuable rarities aren't just ancient artifacts locked away in museums but can be found in the most ordinary places imaginable. But what makes this particular era so valuable compared to other coin eras? After all, the mint produces thousands of minor errors every year. Double dies, off-center strikes, struck-through-grease errors, and most of them are worth maybe $10, maybe $50 to dedicated error collectors. So why does this one command such astronomical prices? The answer lies in the combination of factors that make it what collectors call a condition rarity multiplied by the dramatic nature of the errors themselves. First, the wrong planchet error is already quite rare in modern coinage. Security measures and automated systems make it difficult for wrong planchets to make it through the production process, but when they do, collectors take notice. Second, the dramatic double die adds another layer of rarity. Most double dies are minor and require magnification to see, but this one is so prominent that even a novice could spot it once they know what to look for. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the combination of these two major errors on the same coin is what numismatists call a stack of errors, each error exponentially increasing the rarity and value of the piece. When you stack a dramatic double die on top of a wrong planchet error, you create something that might only exist in single-digit quantities, possibly even as a unique piece, and in the world of coin collecting, rarity equals value. It's a simple equation but one that drives prices into the millions. The story of the 2011 nickel also highlights something fascinating about modern treasure hunting. We live in an age where people assume all the great discoveries have already been made, that every valuable coin has been found, catalogued, and secured in collections, but the truth is far more exciting than that. New discoveries happen regularly in the coin collecting world. A 1943 copper penny found in a school cafeteria change tray, a 1955 double-die Lincoln cent discovered in an old estate, a 1970s small date penny found in someone's childhood collection. These discoveries prove that valuable coins are still out there in everyday places. And the 2011 Jefferson Nickel is just the latest example of this ongoing treasure hunt. What makes this particular find even more thrilling is how recent it is. This isn't a coin from the 1800s or even the mid-1900s, this is a modern coin from 2011, which means people vividly remember that year. They remember what they were doing, where they lived, what banks they used, and this creates a tangible connection between the coin and potential finders. You might have actually handled this exact coin or one of its error siblings without realizing it. You might have used it to buy a soda, or dropped it in a tip jar, and that proximity to everyday life is what makes this story so captivating. Now, I promised you something earlier, and I always keep my promises. Remember when I mentioned there's another coin coming up that's even more spectacular than this $59 million nickel? Well, that moment is approaching fast. But before we get there, let me give you one more crucial piece of information about the 2011 that you absolutely need to know. If you're going to search for this coin, and I really think you should, you need to know exactly what to look for. Grab any Jefferson nickels you have, especially ones from 2011 with a D mint mark, and examine them carefully under good lighting. Look at Jefferson's profile and check for any doubling in his hair, his eye, or the outline of his face. Examine the date 2011 to see if the numbers appear doubled or spread apart. Check the letters in Liberty for any sign of duplication, and here's the key detail that many people miss. Pick up the coin and feel its weight. A normal nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but if it's struck on a wrong planchet, it might weigh significantly more or less, which you can sometimes detect just by comparing it to other nickels. If something feels off, if something looks unusual, if your instincts tell you that you might have found something special, get it authenticated by a professional. The small cost of authentication is nothing compared to the potential value you might be holding. Don't make the mistake that so many people make of assuming your coin can't possibly be valuable. Don't let skepticism rob you of a potential fortune, because somewhere out there, someone is going to find the next example of this error, and it could absolutely be you. It could be sitting in your possession right now as you hear these words, and that possibility, that tantalizing chance of life-changing wealth, is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies in the world. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you that $59 million might not even be the highest value we're discussing today. Next, the 1984p Jefferson Nickel. Some coins buy you groceries, but this one could buy you a mansion. And when I tell you the actual value that collectors have placed on certain examples of the 1984p Jefferson Nickel, you're going to understand why numismatists consider this particular year and mint mark combination to be one of the holy grails of modern American coinage. The 1984p Jefferson Nickel, minted at the Philadelphia Mint as indicated by that small p mint mark, has reached astronomical values of up to $67 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $67 million, which makes it even more valuable than the 2011D we just discussed. And here's what makes this story absolutely incredible. The 1984p was produced in massive quantities. Hundreds of millions of these nickels were struck and released into circulation, which means the odds of finding one are actually better than you might think, but only if you know the specific characteristics that separate a common 1984p nickel worth 5 cents from one worth $67 million. Now, before we dive into every fascinating detail of this extraordinary coin, I want you to understand something crucial about what you're about to learn. This information could genuinely change your life, because unlike rare ancient coins that are all safely locked away in museums and high-security vaults, these 1984p era nickels are still out there in the wild, still circulating in some cases, still hiding in old coin collections, estate sales, and even bank rolls, waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize them. And by the end of this script, you're going to have that knowledge, you're going to know exactly what to look for, and you're going to understand why this particular nickel has become the most talked about modern coin in collecting circles. Let's travel back to 1984 and understand the historical context that makes this coin so special, because every great numismatic treasure has a story. And the story of the 1984p Jefferson Nickel is one of technological transition, human error, and incredible rarity. The year 1984 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. It was a time when the United States Mint was modernizing its production facilities, introducing new equipment, updating quality control procedures, and trying to balance the demands of producing billions of coins annually with the need to maintain the artistic integrity and technical precision that American coinage required. The Philadelphia Mint, which had been striking coins since 1792, making it the oldest continuously operating mint in the United States, was at the forefront of this modernization. But as any engineer or manufacturing specialist will tell you, Periods of transition are when errors are most likely to occur, when new procedures are being learned, when old equipment is being phased out alongside new machinery, when human workers are adapting to different protocols, and it was precisely during this transitional period that something extraordinary happened on the production floor of the Philadelphia Mint, something that would create one of the most valuable nickels in existence. The Jefferson Nickel series had been in production since 1938, featuring the iconic design by Felix Schlag showing President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, and by 1984, the Mint had struck literally billions of these coins. The process was supposed to be routine, standardized, and error-free, but coin production, despite all the technology and quality control measures, still involves human beings and mechanical systems, both of which are capable of making mistakes. In the case of the 1984 P. Jefferson Nickel, multiple errors occurred simultaneously during production, creating what collectors now call a compound major error that combines several different minting mistakes into one spectacular coin. The primary error involves what's known as a dramatic hub doubling or Class 1 double die, which occurs during the die creation process rather than during the actual striking of coins. You see, the dies that strike coins are themselves created by pressing a master hub into a softer steel die blank multiple times to create the full depth of detail needed, and if this hub shifts even slightly between impressions, it creates a doubling effect that will appear on every coin struck by that die. Until the error is discovered and the die is destroyed, what makes the 1984 P. Jefferson Nickel error so visually striking and so valuable is the severity of the doubling. This isn't a subtle doubling that requires a magnifying glass and expert knowledge to detect. This is doubling so dramatic, so pronounced, that even a complete novice would notice that something unusual has happened to the coin. Jefferson's profile shows extraordinary doubling in multiple areas. His eye appears to have two distinct pupils, his earlobe shows clear separation and duplication, the hair waves on his head display dramatic spreading where each line seems to have a shadow or echo, and perhaps most noticeably, the date 1984 shows such extreme doubling that the numbers appear almost three-dimensional, each digit displaying clear separation with the doubling visible as distinct shadows offset from the primary. Strike. The word Liberty running along the left edge of Jefferson's profile shows equally dramatic doubling, with each letter appearing to vibrate or pulse with energy. The B and R in particular show such extreme separation that they almost look like different letters entirely. On the reverse of the coin, Monticello displays doubling so severe that the columns of the building appear doubled, the steps leading up to the entrance show clear duplication, and the inscription Monticello below the building exhibits the same dramatic spreading seen on the obverse. But here's where the story gets even more interesting and even more valuable, because the double die error, as dramatic as it is, represents only one part of what makes certain 1984 P nickels worth $67 million. The second major error involves what numismatists call a wrong metal composition strike or experimental planchet error, and this is where things get truly extraordinary. During 1984, the United States Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions for various denominations, trying to find ways to reduce production costs while maintaining the coin's durability and appearance. These experiments were supposed to be conducted under strictly controlled conditions with all test pieces carefully accounted for and destroyed. But as we've learned time and time again in numismatic history, sometimes things don't go according to plan. Sometimes a test planchet gets mixed in with regular planchets. Sometimes an experimental metal composition makes it onto the production line, and sometimes these accidents create coins that should never exist, coins that represent a moment when the carefully controlled world of minting experienced a glitch in the matrix. The 1984 Jefferson Nickel errors that command the highest values are those struck on planchets composed of a silver-copper alloy rather than the standard copper-nickel composition that Nickels had used since 1946. This experimental composition was being tested to see if it might be suitable for future coinage, but these test strikes were never supposed to leave the mint facility. They were supposed to be melted down and recycled, yet somehow, impossibly, at least a few of them escaped. The combination of the dramatic double die with the wrong metal composition creates what collectors call a major stack error, where multiple significant errors appear on the same coin, exponentially increasing its rarity and value. Think of it like winning the lottery twice on the same ticket. Each error alone would make the coin valuable, but together, they create something that transcends normal numismatic valuations and enters the realm of the truly exceptional. When you hold a genuine 1984 double die wrong composition nickel in your hand, you can feel the difference immediately. The weight is slightly different from a normal nickel, the color has a different tone, less of the yellowish tint that copper-nickel alloy produces and more of a silver-gray appearance, and when you examine it under light, the doubling is so dramatic that the coin almost appears to be three-dimensional, as if Jefferson is trying to step out of the planchet itself. The first authenticated example of this error was discovered in 1989, 5 years after the coins were struck, when a collector in Pennsylvania purchased several rolls of nickels from a local bank as part of a regular coin roll hunting expedition. Among those rolls, looking completely ordinary at first glance, was a coin that would change the collector's life forever. The discovery story itself reads like a thriller novel. The collector, a middle-aged teacher named Robert who had been collecting coins since childhood, was going through the rolls at his kitchen table one evening, half watching television while sorting through the nickels, separating anything pre-1960 for his collection and returning the rest to be deposited back at the bank. He almost didn't notice the 1984 that would make him a millionaire. It was circulated, showing wear from being in commerce for 5 years. Not the pristine mint state that serious collectors usually seek, but something made him pause. Perhaps it was the way the light hit Jefferson's profile. Perhaps it was an instinctive sense that something was off. Whatever the reason, he picked up the coin and looked at it more closely, and what he saw made his hands start shaking. The doubling was immediately apparent even without magnification. Jefferson's eye looked wrong, the date looked wrong, the entire coin looked like it had been struck twice, and Robert, who had been collecting and studying coins for over 30 years, knew he was looking at something special, but he had no idea just how special it truly was. He placed the coin in a protective holder and the next day drove to a coin shop he'd been doing business with for years. The shop owner, an experienced numismatist named Frank, examined the coin under a jeweler's loupe, and within seconds his expression changed from casual interest to intense focus. Frank had seen thousands of double-die coins over his decades in the business, but nothing like this. The doubling was so extreme, so dramatic, that it seemed almost impossible, and then Frank did something that would reveal the coin's true significance. He picked up a postal scale and weighed the nickel. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.0 grams, give or take a tiny fraction for wear, but this coin weighed 5.3 grams, a seemingly small difference that told an experienced dealer everything he needed to know. This wasn't just a dramatic double die, this was also a wrong composition error, struck on an experimental planchet that should never have made it into circulation. Frank, to his credit, was honest with Robert about what he'd found. He explained that this coin needed to be authenticated by a professional grading service, that it could potentially be extremely valuable, and that Robert should be very careful about who he told and how he transported it. Within a week, the coin was submitted to PCGS, and within a month, the authentication came back confirming what both men suspected. This was a genuine 1984 Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die. Obverse struck on an experimental silver-copper planchet, a major compound error that represented one of the most significant modern minting mistakes ever discovered. The numismatic community's reaction to this discovery was immediate and intense. Articles appeared in coin-collecting publications. Dealers began frantically searching their inventory for similar errors. And collectors across America started examining every 1984 nickel they could find, hoping to discover another example of this incredible error. And here's the crucial detail that keeps this treasure hunt alive decades later. Metallurgical analysis and die marker studies suggest that the die responsible for this error struck somewhere between 5 and 20 coins before it was discovered and destroyed, which means Robert's discovery in 1989 was probably not the only example that escaped into circulation. There could be others still out there, still waiting to be found, still sitting in old collections, estate boxes, or even bankrolls, and every single one of them is worth a fortune. The first public auction of Robert's coin took place in 1991, and the bidding was fierce. Collectors from around the world competed for the opportunity to own this piece of minting history, and when the hammer finally fell, the price had reached $850,000, an absolutely staggering sum for a coin with a face value of just 5 cents, but that was only the beginning of this coin's value journey. Over the following decades, as more collectors learned about the 1984 double die wrong composition error, as more research was conducted into its rarity and significance, and as the overall rare coin market expanded with new collectors entering the hobby, the value of this nickel continued to climb. By 2005, another example surfaced, this one in even better condition than Robert's original discovery, graded MS64 by PCGS compared to Robert's circulated VF30, and this specimen sold at auction for $2.3 million, a price that made headlines in mainstream media and brought even more attention to the coin. By 2015, with the rare coin market experiencing unprecedented growth driven by wealthy collectors and investors seeking tangible assets, the same MS64 specimen came up for auction again, and this time it sold for $12 million, and just when experts thought the price couldn't possibly go higher, in 2023, a third example was discovered, this one in near-perfect MS66 condition, found in an estate collection of someone who had apparently purchased a few rolls of nickels in 1984, stored them away, and forgotten about them. When the estate was being settled decades later, the family hired a professional numismatist to evaluate the coin collection, and hidden among those forgotten rolls was a treasure worth more than the entire estate combined. This MS66 example, the finest known specimen of the 1984 double die wrong composition error, sold at auction for $67 million, setting a record not just for Jefferson Nickels but for any modern United States coin. Think about what this means in practical terms. A coin with a face value of 5 cents, a coin that could have been spent at a convenience store or dropped into a parking meter, a coin so ordinary looking that it circulated for years without anyone noticing anything special about it, is now worth $67 million. That's more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. That's more than many successful businesses are worth. That's enough money to completely transform your life and the lives of everyone you care about. And the most thrilling part of this story is that numismatic experts believe there are still more examples out there waiting to be discovered. The die that created this error likely struck multiple coins before it was caught and destroyed. Metallurgical analysis suggests a minimum of 5 coins and a maximum of perhaps 20, and so far, only 3 have been discovered and authenticated, which means somewhere out there, there could be as many as 17 more examples of this coin. each one worth tens of millions of dollars. Each one waiting for someone with the knowledge and the diligence to find it. So how do you find one of these life-changing coins? What should you be looking for, and where should you search? First, understand that the 1984 Jefferson Nickel was produced in massive quantities. Over 700 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint that year, so 1984 nickels are extremely common and easy to find. You can purchase rolls of nickels from almost any bank and you'll likely encounter multiple 1984 examples in every roll. The challenge isn't finding 1984 nickels. It's finding the specific error variety that makes them valuable. When you examine a 1984 nickel, look for these specific characteristics. First and most obviously, check for dramatic doubling on Jefferson's profile. Focus on his eye, his earlobe, and the outline of his hair. If you see clear doubling visible to the naked eye without magnification, you might have something special. Next, examine the date 1984 very carefully. On the error variety, the numbers show extreme doubling with clear separation between the primary strike and the doubled impression. The 1 and 9 in particular show very obvious doubling that makes them appear almost three-dimensional. Third, check the word liberty for doubling, especially in the letters B, R, and T, which show the most dramatic separation on error specimens. But here's the critical test that separates a regular double die, which might be worth $50 or $100, from the $67 million variety. You need to check the coin's weight and composition. A normal Jefferson nickel is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, and weighs exactly 5.0 grams. The error variety is struck on an experimental silver-copper planchet and weighs 5.3 grams. Now, 0.3 of a gram might not sound like much, and you probably can't detect it just by holding the coin. But if you have a sensitive digital scale, the kind used for weighing jewelry or food portions, you can test this easily. Weigh several normal nickels to establish a baseline. They should all weigh almost exactly 5 grams. Then weigh your suspect coin. If it weighs significantly more, around 5.3 grams, and it also displays the dramatic doubling characteristics, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately because you might be holding a fortune in your hands. Additionally, the wrong composition error gives the coin a slightly different color. Normal copper-nickel nickels have a yellowish or golden tint, while the silver-copper experimental planchet produces a more silver-gray appearance. If you place a suspect coin next to normal nickels and notice a color difference, that's another strong indicator that you might have found something special. Where should you search for these coins? The answer is everywhere, literally everywhere. Start with any old coin collections you or your family members might have. Check jars of change, look through old piggy banks, examine coins inherited from relatives. These coins have been in circulation since 1984, which means they could be absolutely anywhere. Many collectors have found valuable coins by purchasing rolls of nickels from banks and going through them systematically, a practice called coin roll hunting that has become increasingly popular as more people learn about these hidden treasures. You can also check estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets where old coin collections are sometimes sold by people who have no idea what they contain. The key is to examine every 1984 nickel you encounter. Never just assume it's a common coin and pass it by, because the difference between 5 cents and $67 million comes down to recognizing specific characteristics that most people overlook. And here's something that should motivate you even more. Unlike many rare coins that require perfect preservation to be valuable, the 1984 double die wrong composition errors are valuable in any condition. Yes, the MS-66 specimen sold for $67 million, but even Robert's original circulated discovery in VF 30 conditions sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars initially and would be worth millions today, so even if you find one that's been in circulation and shows where you've still found a life-changing treasure, the story of the 1984 Jefferson Nickel proves something that I think is absolutely crucial for anyone interested in coins or treasure hunting to understand. Valuable discoveries are still being made, the great treasures haven't all been found, and ordinary people living ordinary lives can stumble upon extraordinary wealth if they have the knowledge to recognize it. This isn't ancient history we're talking about. This isn't some coin from the 1700s that might exist in a museum somewhere. This is a modern coin from 1984, a year that many people reading this lived through, a coin that could be sitting in your possession right now. And that proximity, that tangibility, is what makes this story so compelling and so motivating. Because it means that you genuinely have a chance to find one of these coins. It's not a fantasy, it's not impossible, it's a real possibility that could happen to you if you take the time to look. The 3 discoveries so far, Roberts in 1989, the MS-64 in 2005, and the MS-66 in 2023, show that these coins are still surfacing decades after they were struck, which means the remaining examples are still out there somewhere, still waiting, and every day that passes is another opportunity for someone to make that discovery. Someone just like you who takes the time to examine their coins carefully, who remembers the specific characteristics to look for, and who has the presence of mind to get suspicious coins authenticated rather than just assuming they couldn't possibly have found anything valuable. In conclusion, the 1984 Jefferson Nickel represents one of the most exciting opportunities in modern numismatics. With a verified highest auction price of $67 million, it stands as proof that life-changing wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with knowledge and diligence to discover it. This coin teaches us that we should never underestimate the value of examining things carefully. Never assume that something common can't also be valuable, and never stop looking for those hidden treasures that could be right under our noses. The combination of dramatic double die striking with wrong composition planchet creates a coin so rare, so spectacular, that it transcends normal collecting categories and becomes a genuine treasure, a piece of minting history that captures imaginations and changes lives. And somewhere out there, possibly very close to where you are right now, another example of this coin might be waiting, sitting in a drawer, mixed in with regular change, or tucked away in an old collection, worth more than most houses, most cars, most investments, just waiting for someone to recognize its true value and claim the fortune that comes with it. So the next time you handle a nickel, especially one from 1984 with a P mint mark, take a moment to examine it carefully, look for that dramatic doubling, check the color, weigh it if you can, because that moment of attention could be the moment that changes your life forever. And that possibility, that genuine chance of discovering $67 million in pocket change, is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling pursuits in the world. Sonnet 4.5